Ladies and gentlemen, I just recorded my shard summoning video for the Iris rate up as well as the Eris rate up, and I did actually manage to get her, which is fantastic news, so make sure to stay tuned for that video if you're watching this. But this particular video is going to be talking, of course, about Diaochan, how to build her, going through her kit, why she's so good, all that sort of good stuff. I always say this, well, if you're watching this, I presume you have her, obviously, right? Otherwise, why are you watching this? Maybe you just like my personality, in which case, thank you. Make sure to go ahead and hit the like button. But if you don't have her, make sure to get her when she's on this exclusive summoning event, and make sure to get her A1 if at all possible, because she is one of the best inspiration units inside the entire game. But that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at Miss Diaochan here, see how she's built, and all those sorts of good things. So let's go ahead and take a look at her skills to start. So her basic attack, when she's basically has like two versions of herself, kind of like an Ingrid, and her ultimate just changes between versions of herself. It doesn't necessarily do anything, if that makes sense. So this also isn't clear, but when she initially spawns in, so in the two versions, she's either healing or she's inspiring your other units and allowing them to do more damage. When she initially spawns in, she's going to be in the Serenade of Hope stance, which means that she's applying attack-based healing 3 times to all allies in range. Now, this is also signified because she's going to have kind of like a blue aura around her, as you can see from like the initial phase here, and then when she switches over, it goes to like a red aura. So when she's in this kind of like red phase that you see currently, she's going to be in the damage dealing phase. When she switches over and when she's kind of more like this phase, the more blue side of things, she's in the healing phase. So that's something to consider. I was a little bit confused about that when I initially got her all those months ago. Now, Song of Sorrow is going to grant a 25% inspiration to all allies in range. So the inspiration means that she increases attack proportionally to the caster's attack. While this effect is active, other buffs affecting the inspiration will not take effect. Additionally, the caster is immune to such buffs. So she's giving 25% of her post-deployment attack to everyone else on the field within inside her range, which is absolutely sensational. Obviously, way back in the day, everybody was using somebody like Dolores to achieve this same effect, right? So Dolores herself here on her ultimate, she has a 40% inspiration, so a significantly higher inspiration, but the difference is Dolores is predicated on having her ult up to do it, which is why we had to depend on things like Eloin, Hollow, Laurel to really rage cycle somebody like the Dolores, but Diaochan is going to have it up constantly. Now, her talent, she's going to increase healing bonus by 15%, or 50% rather. When deployed, she begins dancing to Serenade of Hope, so her healing version. When she's doing that, she gains an extra 4% healing bonus every 2 seconds, reaching a maximum increase after 20 seconds. During Song of Sorrow, she increases her attack by 2% every 2 seconds, reaching a maximum increase after 20 seconds. These effects are removed when switching stances. So essentially, ideally, you want to have her in one form or the other. So you need to choose if you want to have her as a healer or if you want to have her as a inspiration unit. Now, guys, I'm just going to spoil it here. If you're building her as a healer, if you're using your Diaochan as a healer, you can go ahead, click off the video. I don't want to see you here, okay? I don't want to hear it. I'm sort of kidding, but it's a silly decision to build your Diaochan as a healer. You need to build her as an inspiration unit, so I'd recommend placing her, switching her to the Song of Sorrow, getting that inspiration, and letting it stack up. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of her other skills. So Bitter Sweet Dreams. Within 15 seconds after switching stances, the basic attack inherits half the effect of the previous stance. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 45 seconds. So essentially, when you initially switch between, say for example, the damage mode to the healing mode, she's going to still have some damage amplification while also being able to do the heals for 15 seconds, but it's only half as effective as when she'd be in the other mode, which is still pretty cool. Now, Thorned Rose passive. So during the Serenade of Hope, she continuously applies physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction. Now, these are both the 20% version, so it's actually a pretty big reduction to allies in range. Song of Sorrow, she continuously applies penetration increase to 2 other non-healer allies with the highest attack in range. So they're going to ignore 20% of defense and magic resistance, which is significant. So if you're trying to progress through, Guild Boss 1, or Semra, or certainly Abyss, she's going to be fantastic for enabling your damage dealers to do such. Now, she also has a passive bond skill with Lu Bu, the Flying General. So When you have him as well, when there are any other allied heroes in her basic attack range, reduces Diaochan's AoE damage taken by 30%. Now, this is a pretty cool exclusive, or bond skill rather, but it's not mandatory by any means. And I'm happy that Moonton did this, because there are some other bond skills inside the game, like for example the Silas bond skill, where he's ridiculously OP when he's bonded with Fierna, and just better than average when he's not bonded, right? So still a significant damage dealer, but the power creep that you get between bonded and non-bonded is insane. So I'm happy that her bondage is not too crazy. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the ultimate. It's very simple. If she's in Serenade of Hope, she switches to Song of Sorrow. If she's in Song of Sorrow, she switches to Serenade of Hope. It's pretty simple, right? You'll notice, though, that this is on a 100 cost with a 100 initial, so you can instantly ultimate whenever you place her. And she has a very low cost. She regens it very quickly, which means that actually she can be a significant hero to really power up anybody who might be in a Soulbound Arcana set. So Soulbound Arcana, after the ultimate is cast, damage increases by 10% permanently, stacking up to 5 times. It reads as if it would be this hero specifically, right? So every time Hex casts his ultimate, it's going to increase his damage by 10%, but nope. It's actually going to be anybody on the field casting their ultimate, so she can be fantastic for that. She can also be fantastic to enable an Idril, because obviously Idril gets bonus damage when somebody ults inside her range, so you can really just ult cycle with Diaochan, and she helps to enable so much there. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the Awakenings. So, A1, she increases her basic attack range. As you can see, it is a significant increase. So, essentially, she just goes from, like, kind of like a Dolores range all the way up to, like, an Aelin range, which is absolutely insane. A2, attack plus 300. A3, during Thorn Rose, increases damage reduction of Serenade of Hope by 5%. So, it's going to be 25% of the damage reductions. And then she gives 3 people the penetration increase. A4, all damage reductions plus 8%. A5, when switching to Serenade of Hope, she gives a heal burst. When switching to Song of Sorrow, she gives a rage regen, so she's going to regenerate 10% rage for everybody, and it can be triggered up to 1 time every 30 seconds. So if you're really desperate for rage regen, you can do that. I probably don't necessarily recommend, using soul stones or anything like that on her, but if you happen to have, 6 copies of Diaochan, go ahead and get her A5. I would say for probably 99% of the player base, you don't have to worry about it, though. For the other 1% of the player base, well, you're the guys that are keeping on the lights at the Moonton server center, so, go ahead and get her A5, right? Now, let's take a look at the build. So, for the gear on the right-hand side, we're going to look at the sets first. So, for sets, I do think Wings of Grace is going to be best in slot. So, Wings of Grace is healing effect plus 30, increases the attack of the hero and the ally with the highest attack in range by 12%. So this is essentially kind of like a invigoration set, but on steroids, right? So this is best in slot. If you do not have Wings of Grace, I would recommend going with invigoration, because that's obviously going to give her a plus 25 healing effect. Her and one random ally will gain 10% attack. Now, if you don't know, when you're initially placing these units, when it says random ally, you can kind of control that. So if you place out your Ingrid, then you place Diaochan, it's guaranteed that the effect of invigoration is going to land on your Ingrid, right? So you can kind of determine where it goes indirectly. Now, if you don't have either of those sets, then you're really just looking for stats, right? Like, I would not concern myself with gear sets if you don't have those particular sets that you can use, right? So just get her with attack, speed, that sort of stuff. Not speed, sorry. So, and that kind of goes in actually to building her. So you'll see I have plus 0 speed on her. So the thing is her basic attack on the Song of Sorrow is not predicated on attack speed. And in fact, if you look at like most of the top end players for her, right? So like the people that are using her, they have a little bit of speed on her, but you'll also see people like this that have no speed, right? So realistically, these particular players that do have the speed on her, they're most likely using her in the healing form as well a little bit, or more likely than not, it just so happens that they have a lot of attack speed substats, right? So you can see they're not really focusing on attack speed. It just sort of happens. So you don't need to build her with any speed if you're going to be using her in the inspiration mode. If you're going to be using her in the healing mode, you may want a little bit of attack speed on there. And then kind of on the same side of the coin, right? So you don't want to build her with any sort of rage regen because she just doesn't need it. She can instantly ult as soon as you place her. So really what you're focusing on the right-hand side, sorry, is attack bonus main stats all the way across is what I would recommend. So just getting the attack bonus and then also enhancing these if at all possible. So obviously using your Darkfall gems if you happen to have enough of those. And then for substats, you're really just looking for like HP bonus, defense, and defense bonus. And then ideally, as you'll notice here, you'll also have like flat attack substats, right? Because that's one of the best ways to bolster up her attack as well. She has obscenely low base attack at 2583, so getting any sort of a boost to that is going to be huge for your build. In terms of the overall stats, I have almost 13,000 attack, 0 speed, so her attack interval was quite high. And then, like I say, you're not really worried about too much else. You do want a decent amount of HP on her, though, as well. Left-hand side, you know, you can focus on sets if you want. So if you're going sets, you might want to go Astral Guardian. You may want to go Light's Grace. You could go with something like, what is it, Warlord, I believe, because Warlord is going to give you that 25% attack bonus as well. So that'd be a very decent way to go if you do have the Warlord pieces to put on her. Again, stat priority is going to be attack, HP, and you're pretty much done. She's a super simple hero to build. Now, for the artifact, she's going to be best run in her Phoenix Feather Fan. This is going to be obviously her exclusive, which I do have another copy of finally, so we can get it up to promo 3, get it up to level 19. But it's going to increase her attack by 5%. When the Serenade of Hope reaches maximum stack, she gains an extra 30% healing bonus. And then when Song of Sorrow reaches maximum stack, she increases her attack by an extra 3%. So, again, you kind of just want to leave her in one of her forms and not really switch her back and forth too much. If you don't have that, Golden Scarab would work just for the attack increases. Apart from that, you're really just looking for anything that will benefit either your build or your other heroes. So for example, your Euphoric Orb is pretty good because it's going to increase the attack speed of all other heroes. And then of course, Keen Wisdom is also always a solid way to go if you're pretty early game or whatnot. So that's going to be kind of the build, the gear, and all that stuff that you want to do. We're going to go ahead and hop into like Guild Boss 1, so the Drake's Chasm here, and just kind of place her down and show you what she's capable of doing. So we're not really too worried about the units that we bring in. We're more so just worried about showing how she can really help to enable damage, showing her ranges, showing her ultimate, all that sort of good stuff. Obviously, she's like a healer slash enabler, so there's not really a way that we can test you know, her damage or anything like that. So that part of the showcases that I usually do is just non-existent. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to place down like Nerja. And then we're going to go ahead and place down Diaochan, switch her over instantly. And then you'll see he does actually have the attack plus 12% from her gear set. So we were able to successfully control where that goes. It's now landed on him, and it is what it is. We're also going to place down some other units here. Get some healing out there, because why not? Some rage regen, all that sort of good stuff. We're going to place down our Kagiri as well. And we're just simply going to do some damage. Now you can see they have some buffs placed here as well. So the AoE damage taken minus 25%, that's obviously coming from Pharisee, disregard that. But you can see on the second one here, she has the increased attack proportionally to the caster's attack, so that's coming from Diaochan. And then the ignore 25% of defense and magic resistance is also coming from Diaochan. So you'll also see that on... we will not see that, so we'll see it on Arrogance. So Arrogance has a higher attack than the Nerja, I guess, so he's also getting the buff. So you can see Arrogance as well as Kagiri are going to be doing significantly more damage because they're now penetrating the enemy's defense, a significant portion of it. They also have the inspiration coming from the Diaochan as well, and again, she consistently keeps this up, so it's not like a Dolores where you have to worry about, you know, ulting with her and rage cycling and all those sorts of things. Simply put, if Diaochan is on the field and if you have her in her specific form, she is going to be applying the inspiration to your units, which is absolutely fantastic. and it does make quite a big damage difference. So I don't run her inside like my Semra teams, but when I did, I noticed the damages were significantly higher, but I eventually just had to replace her because I was trying to push higher scores inside Guild Boss 2. And in order to do that, I essentially just got like a Tallulah in there instead of my Diaochan because I didn't have Elowen Awaken. So Elowen couldn't handle cleansing solo on her own, but if she could, I would definitely run Diaochan instead of Tallulah. So essentially, you know, if at some point I do have a higher awakening on my Elowen, then Elowen is going to be replaced by Diaochan for obvious reasons. So as you can see, we're not really properly alt cycling or anything like that. So like we don't have crazy damage coming in, but you know, at least 12% of this damage is, or 20% of the attack, I guess, on these units is attributed directly to Diaochan. It'd be very, very cool if there was like some sort of a way to really just track like how much damage she helped to amplify, right? But I mean, that would obviously be like a pretty in-depth calculation, especially to share. You can see she still did like a little bit of healing, so like 14,000. She does some healing in her Serenade of Song of Sorrow, rather. So she does a little bit of healing, but it's like basically nothing. It's very marginal. But yeah, that is how you build Diaochan. The stats you want on her, the gear sets, her full kit breakdown, all that sort of good stuff. There is a Discord link down below, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and hop in there, share your builds, ask questions, all that sort of good stuff. I'd love to have you part of the community. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.